Over 500 million people use ChatGPT every week. That number is staggeringly high. It is greater than the population of the US, and it's bigger than every social media platform's number of users combined. So we know AI is coming, we know it's changing the world. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And a lot of people think it's something in the future, but I think we are literally in the process of witnessing it. And 5 or 10 years from now, we look back and realize, oh, AI was already changing us. We just didn't know it until we could look back and see it. So, how can you reinvent your life in a post AI world? Now, first off, I want to say a lot of this advice will change as more tools come out, right? Like, what is the next ChatGPT? Or what is the next tool that will have like 1 billion users or 2 billion users on a regular basis? But I'll also say you're not going to succeed by following the herd or the majority. So ChatGPT or these sort of text-based chatbot style AI tools are likely not the main way that someone would get ahead. They're useful tools, they're useful assistants, but you would need to figure out where the money is being made or where the disruption is happening. And I think that a lot of that is coming from tools that are building on top of what ChatGPT has started, right? So things like make.com, N8N, like slightly more advanced tools that you can still learn as a layman that will allow you to create autonomous agents and start taking new workflows and connecting them. So one thing you have to shift your mindset away from is stop thinking in terms of roles, right? Like, oh, I'm an editor, or I'm a thumbnail artist, or I'm a call center agent, and start thinking in terms of workflows. Meaning, when the phone rings, I pick it up. When someone has a question, I answer it. When someone needs help solving a problem or a technical issue, I help them solve it. When someone needs a great thumbnail for their YouTube video, I design it. And once you start thinking in terms of workflows, you realize that AI is perfectly suited to replace certain workflows, right? Like virtual assistants, AI is amazing at that. Their voices are really good. They're able to know the procedure or the information off the back of their hand. So if someone calls in, AI can pick up on the first ring, which is huge, right? Sales is also going to be a great field for it because AI will follow up consistently. AI will call people within, a few seconds. And actually the time to call people, there was a recent study that showed it's like 100 times more effective to call someone within like the first 20 to 60 seconds rather than waiting 20 minutes. Because 20 minutes later, that person has already moved on. They're thinking about buying something else. When you call them, they have to remember why they signed up for your service in the first place. And it's much harder to sell them on the product. Whereas if you call them instantly, they're already in the right zone of thinking where they want to buy because they just signed up for the product. You barely have to convince them. They're ready to give you their credit card. So these are just a few examples of how to shift your thinking for a post-AI world, right? Start thinking in terms of workflows. Realize that the next big tools are still being made, so keep an eye out on them. And in the meantime, try to learn the things that are more niche and yet being used to create $1 million companies every day. And I'm pretty sure that AI is going to be the reason we get the first, 5-man $1 billion company, 1-man $1 billion company, 1-man $1 trillion company, and so on. Because AI is able to take a single person's effort and multiply it 100, 1,000, even 10,000 times. But they have to learn how to create a synergy between multiple agents. So the next thing is once you start learning these tools and you're able to implement them, start figuring out, and you can model this based on how real teams are built, but I would recommend over time moving away from that model because AI is going to change the way that we think of teams and synergy. Right now, a lot of teams are built up of roles that are outdated and that are made up because of human needs and human collaboration. But with AI, it may be best, for example, to have the same agent trained with a kind of personality that handles incoming customer service calls, but also makes outgoing sales calls, right? Because it may just turn out that the information and the personality and the style needed to excel at those two roles, there's a lot of overlap. It's just an example. But the idea being that your most synergistic agent team communicating with each other maybe between roles you don't expect. So it could be customer service and sales, it could be literally marketing and also quality assurance, right? Or feedback, because maybe you want the AI that is doing a lot of the testing to share information with the AI that is doing a lot of the copywriting, right? Because the tester will find a lot of problems with the product, the copywriter will then write about those problems, find a way to fix them in the product, and then create solutions in the copy so that people feel like their pain point is being addressed. Now, the other thing to think about in a post AI world is that a lot of the things that we consider barriers today will simply not exist tomorrow, right? So, for example, you likely won't need to worry about a degree, right? Lots of people are already making plenty of money without a degree, without schooling. You likely won't need formal training in a lot of areas. You likely won't need expert support from a human being in many areas, right? You don't necessarily need to be a subject matter expert if you are able to have an AI that can advise you and give you the right advice at the right time so that you basically have a subject matter expert there. So by understanding which aspects of today's regular world will change, you can prepare yourself by ignoring them and focusing on improving your skills where they will still be needed, right? So people will still be needed who can learn new skills, who can understand autonomous AI agents and systems, who can link them together, and especially people who can explain them to other people and help other people learn. Because teaching is one of the biggest ways you can scale. And the reality is, even if an AI can help and teach people, a lot of people will prefer to learn from a human being, right? Like a lot of people just prefer human interactions. And I think that will be a true tipping point when more people prefer to interact with an AI in the world than interact with a human being. But I think that's fairly far out. We'll see. I could be wrong. But I think for a lot of people, in-person interaction or like, face to face with a human, where they can kind of feel a sense of, okay, I can get to where this person is at. Because part of the issue of being taught by an AI is you never really feel like you can know everything that the AI knows, right? Where I think for a lot of students, they want to feel like they can surpass their master. They want to feel like they can get good enough that they could be in the seat that you're in, right? But you can never have that feeling with an AI. But with a person, you definitely can. So I've covered automation, I've covered disruption, and I've also covered, remaining relevant. But I think the last thing I just want to cover is how do you handle the sort of psychological wellness aspect of living in a post-AI world, right? Because despite all of these skills and everything that you learn, human interaction is going to change, right? Like especially fields like dating and relationships, friendships, group activities, a lot of them are going to shift with AI, right? Like I think it's very likely we see AI boyfriends and girlfriends, AI friend circles. It might even be that, multiple friend groups have one or two AIs in them that whose sole purpose is to just make the friend group interaction more enjoyable, right? So they almost act like a facilitator, where like if someone's really quiet or introverted, the AI might raise up their voice, right? You'll actually see like there are people who do this already in their friend groups and they provide very valuable roles. AI might also be used as the organizer, right? Again, there are people who organize, like I have a friend in my friend group from high school who still organizes, lunches, dinners, meetups, and he's got a super valuable role to play because the way he organizes things leads to all of us meeting. And if he doesn't organize, then we don't meet, right? So AI will fill in like pivotal roles like that in the social structure. So I think the way that you keep your psychology intact through all of that is to lean into it, to look for ways in which you can integrate AI to fill roles that are overburdening you or your friends or whoever it might be, right? Your network. So like I said, it could be things like organizing, cataloging, documenting, facilitating. But you notice how all of these are support structures, right? They're not things like leading. They're not things like direct teaching, mastery of subjects. They're not going to replace the most important vital functions, at least not yet. So I think to retain your sense of purpose, especially for men, I think it's important to have a sense of purpose, a quest. It's worth finding an area or two that you believe you just really love learning in, and you want to be a master in that area. And don't worry about what AI will do to the area or not. It kind of doesn't matter. Because once you know what that area is, you can use AI to augment all of the support roles around it so that you can then excel in that area. And the reason to do this is not just to gain mastery, but it's also to feel a true sense of self-worth, right? Because if you feel like you can't be good at anything and AI can replace everything, it's going to be very hard to feel stable and have a positive sense of self-esteem. And I think this is one of the most important but underrated aspects, which is just how do you maintain your psychological wellness, right? So you have to find the things that work for you so that you can not just survive, but thrive in a post-AI world.